Oscar Piastri walked into the Qatar Media Center on Thursday, and reporters wasted no time asking the question everyone wanted answered: would he help Lando Norris win the championship? McLaren had discussed it internally, and Piastri's answer was simple and shocking: no. 24 points separate Norris from the title, with 2 race weekends remaining, and Max Verstappen sits level with Piastri on points, both 24 behind Norris. The championship is wide open, and Piastri just made it abundantly clear he's not stepping aside for anyone. When asked directly whether McLaren had discussed implementing team orders to help Norris, Piastri didn't hesitate. We've had a very brief discussion, and the answer is no. I'm still equal on points with Max and got a decent shot of still winning it if things go my way. That's how we play it. That statement represents the bombshell that has thrown McLaren's championship strategy into chaos. The team considered asking Piastri to move over, but they decided against it because mathematically, Piastri remains in this fight. He's tied with Verstappen, he's won 7 races this season, the same number as Norris, and he genuinely believes he can still claim the title. The mathematics actually support his position in a very real way. 58 points remain available across the final 2 races. Qatar offers 33 points through its sprint format, while Abu Dhabi provides 26 points. If Piastri wins everything and Norris finishes second in everything, Piastri would take the championship by 1 point. Piastri acknowledged the slim nature of his chances, stating, "I know it's not impossible. Obviously, I also know that it's a bit of an outside shot. I can't just rely on having a perfect final 2 weekends. I need other things to go my way, and I'm very aware of that. But unlikely doesn't mean impossible, and that forms the core of Piastri's argument. As long as he's mathematically alive, he's racing for himself, not for Norris, not for the team's preferred outcome, but for his own championship." This stance creates significant tension within McLaren, though not publicly visible. Piastri and Norris have maintained good relations throughout the season, which remains rare in Formula One when 2 teammates fight for a title. However, the tension exists beneath the surface because McLaren now faces a genuine dilemma. If Piastri finishes ahead of Norris in Qatar, he takes points away from his teammate, and those points could be the difference between Norris winning the championship or losing it to Verstappen. McLaren could win the drivers' title, or they could lose it specifically because their own drivers split the points between them. The Las Vegas disqualification complicates everything in ways that keep Piastri's hopes alive. Had both McLarens kept their results, Norris would be 30 points ahead of Piastri right now, a comfortable margin that would have likely prompted McLaren to implement team orders already. Piastri would probably have accepted them, knowing his championship was effectively over, but the disqualification fundamentally changed the picture. Norris lost 18 points while Piastri lost 12 points, meaning the gap between them stayed at 24 points. More importantly, Verstappen gained massively from the situation. He went from being 42 points behind Norris to just 24 points behind, and he drew level with Piastri in the standings. Piastri sees this situation clearly and understands its complexity. Ultimately, it's never a good thing having the result we had. Yes, it prevents me from losing those 6 points to Lando. It also brings Max much closer into the fight. Overall, it's still a net negative. The irony is striking because the disqualification actually helped Piastri relative to Norris, since he didn't lose 6 points to his teammate, but it hurt him overall by bringing Verstappen into genuine contention. Now, instead of a 2-way McLaren fight, it's a 3-way battle, and Piastri finds himself on the outside looking in. Piastri's manager is Mark Webber, who knows about unlikely championship scenarios from personal experience. Webber has stated, "I think there's still a chance, and it's played out that way a couple of times before. He's seen firsthand that championships can flip in unexpected ways. Having lost one himself in dramatic fashion, maybe Piastri can win one through similar unexpected circumstances." However, there's a crucial difference between Webber's situation and Piastri's current position. Webber was leading going into the final race and needed to defend his position, whereas Piastri is tied for second and needs to attack while hoping both Norris and Verstappen falter. McLaren's position has become increasingly delicate as the season reaches its climax. They've maintained all season that both drivers are equal, with no number 1 and no number 2, free to race each other. That philosophy worked brilliantly when they were dominating, when both drivers were winning races and taking podiums, when the championship seemed inevitable for one of them. Now it's become a liability because Verstappen is firmly in the fight, and every point Piastri takes from Norris potentially helps Verstappen. McLaren could end the season with the fastest car, the most wins, and no drivers' championship, all because they let their drivers race freely. Andrea Stella faces the most difficult decision of his tenure as team principal. Does he override Piastri's wishes and implement team orders anyway, telling Piastri to move aside for Norris? That approach would guarantee the best chance of beating Verstappen, but it would also break the team's promise to both drivers. It would create resentment within the team and damage Piastri's trust in McLaren's leadership. Alternatively, does Stella stick with the current approach and let both drivers race, hoping that Norris is simply faster and beats Piastri on merit? That preserves team harmony and honors their commitments, but it genuinely risks the championship. The other teams won't make this battle easy for McLaren. Ferrari is fighting for second in the Constructors' Championship, and Mercedes is in that battle too. All of them can take points from the McLaren drivers, and all of them can influence who ultimately wins the title. Piastri acknowledged this reality, stating, "Regardless of what the championship picture looks like for others, everyone is going out there to try and fight for wins and podiums. So, I don't expect anyone to make life easy." Qatar's circuit should favor McLaren based on the car's characteristics. The track features fast-flowing corners and a smooth surface, exactly the kind of track where the MCL39 excels. If McLaren dominates qualifying and locks out the front row, the team orders question becomes immediate and unavoidable. Do they let Piastri lead if he's faster, or do they protect Norris's championship regardless of pure pace? Piastri has made his position abundantly clear on this matter. "I'm just going to try and have the best weekends I can, which I try and do every weekend, and see what happens to everyone else." That's not defiance for its own sake, it's determination. Piastri isn't trying to sabotage Norris or harm his teammates' championship chances. He's trying to win his own championship because he believes he can. The odds are stacked against him, but he's a racing driver, and racing drivers don't accept second place willingly. Piastri could become Australia's first world champion since Alan Jones in 1980s, a gap of 45 years. The pressure to achieve that milestone is immense, and this might genuinely be his only championship chance. Nothing is guaranteed in Formula One, and the opportunity available today might not exist tomorrow. The team orders debate has destroyed partnerships before in Formula One history. When one driver is asked to sacrifice for another, resentment builds and relationships fracture. McLaren has successfully avoided that situation so far, and that relationship between Piastri and Norris holds genuine value for the team's future. Verstappen is watching all of this unfold with keen interest because he knows McLaren's internal conflict benefits him directly. Every point the McLaren drivers take from each other is a point they're not using to extend the gap over him. McLaren's refusal to implement team orders represents Red Bull's best hope for Verstappen retaining his title.